1970. Ask anyone who rules the shoe world and they will say Adidas, 3 stripes, Olympic gold, football glory, and they will be wrong. The biggest shoemaker on earth is a company most people have never thought about for a single second. Bata, a Czech family firm that sells cheap canvas shoes in over 90 countries. More pairs every year than anyone alive. This chart is every brand on the planet, ranked by pairs sold each year. And for this entire decade, the crown belongs to the boring giant nobody romanticizes. Remember that. It will matter again at the very end. Through the late 70s, Bata and Adidas trade the crown back and forth like two heavyweights leaning on each other. But the real story is happening far below them. In 1972, a tiny Oregon company starts selling a running shoe with a sole its founder cooked in his wife's waffle iron. It is called Nike, and on this chart it is barely visible, a little orange sliver climbing through the pack as America discovers jogging. Keep your eye on it. Everything that happens for the next 50 years is, one way or another, a reaction to that little orange bar. Now watch the red rocket. Reebok, a faded British running brand, notices something every other company missed: women. In 1982, it releases the Freestyle, a soft leather shoe built for a brand new craze called aerobics, and it detonates. Reebok goes from nowhere to third on earth in about 3 years, one of the fastest rises in the history of consumer products. Nike, obsessed with male runners, misses the aerobics wave completely and stalls in 5th. The lesson every sneaker executive learns this decade: the crown is never taken by fighting harder. It is taken by seeing a customer nobody else is looking at. Desperate, Nike gambles. In 1984, it hands a $2.5 million deal to an unproven rookie named Michael Jordan. The league bans his black and red shoes and fines him $5,000 every game he wears them. And Nike happily pays because the scandal sells out every store in America. It is the greatest marketing accident ever. And here is the part everyone forgets. It still wasn't enough. Through 1986, 87, 88, Reebok outsells Nike anyway. Even LA Gear, a fashion brand with light-up sneakers and a Michael Jackson deal, comes screaming up the chart. Nike has the most famous athlete alive, and it is losing. So, in 1988, Nike stops selling shoes and starts selling belief. 3 words: just do it. It is not about athletes anymore. It is about you. Sales explode. And late in 1988, the little waffle iron company from Oregon finally takes the #1 spot on this chart. Hold that image, because from this exact moment, through every crisis, every recession, every scandal, and every challenger you are about to watch, Nike will never, not once, give the crown back. The 90s open with a purge of the old kings. Adidas, the royal family of sport, collapses to the edge of bankruptcy by 1992, saved only by new owners and a brutal restructuring. Watch its bar sink below brands it used to tower over. LA Gear falls even harder, from the top 5 to chapter 11 in 6 years, the fastest boom and bust the industry has ever seen. British Knights dies when its logo gets adopted by street gangs and banned from schools. The chart does not care about your history. It only counts this year's pairs. And while America fights its sneaker wars, look who is still quietly sitting near the top. Bata. No commercials, no athletes, no hype, just cheap, honest shoes for billions of people who will never queue for a launch. The volume kings are never the cool kids, but the .com era claims a famous victim. Converse, the company that invented the basketball shoe, the brand that put Chuck Taylors on 90% of the NBA, slides completely off this chart and files for bankruptcy in 2001. The inventor of sneaker culture, dead in the water at the exact moment sneaker culture conquers the world. What follows is the era of consolidation, and it is ruthless. In 2003, Nike buys the corpse of Converse, its oldest rival, for $305 million, small change. In 2006, Adidas swallows Reebok whole for $3.8 billion, desperate to close the gap on Nike. The brands that once fought for the crown are now trophies on other companies' shelves. And in the middle of all this money, something absurd happens. A $30 foam clog called Crocs comes out of nowhere and rockets into the top 3. The ugliest shoe ever made is suddenly one of the best-selling shoes alive. It does not last. Crocs overexpands, the fad cools, and when the financial crisis hits in 2008, the company nearly dies. Watch it fall clean off the chart. In fact, watch everything shrink. Lehman Brothers collapses, and for the first time in this video, the entire chart contracts at once. But on the other side of the world, something new is starting. At the Beijing Olympics, a gymnast named Li Ning flies through the air to light the torch, and the sportswear company that bears his name surges at home. A year later, a Chinese rival called Anta buys the China rights to Fila. The East has entered the war. The 2010s belong to the unglamorous. Anta grinds into the global top 6. Skechers, the brand every sneakerhead openly mocks, climbs relentlessly toward the top 5 by selling comfortable shoes to people who could not care less what is cool. And the decade's strangest resurrection. Converse, the bankrupt has-been, comes roaring back under Nike's ownership. The Chuck Taylor reborn as a fashion staple, outselling brands that never died. On this chart, being cool and being big are two completely different careers. By the late 2010s, sneakers are not shoes anymore. They are assets. Resale platforms treat Jordans like stocks. Adidas prints money with its Boost foam. And look at this. Jordan Brand, the shoe line of one man who retired from basketball 20 years ago, now sells enough to appear on this chart as its own company, ahead of brands with a century of history. One retired athlete outsells entire nations of shoemakers. The industry has never been richer, never been louder, and it is about to be hit by something no marketing budget can stop. 2020, the world locks down, and the sneaker market loses a sixth of its volume in weeks, the sharpest drop in this chart's history. But what comes back is not what went in. Nobody is dressing to impress in a lockdown. They are dressing for comfort. Crocs, left for dead a decade ago, has the greatest comeback in footwear history. In China, a boycott of Western brands sends Li-Ning and Anta surging. And Adidas ends the era by firing Kanye West and eating over $1 billion in unsold Yeezys. Chaos everywhere, except at the very top, where Nike just keeps sitting on the crown. Which brings us to now, and the joke this entire chart has been building toward. Nike is still number one, moving well over 500 million pairs a year. But look closely, since 2024, its bar is shrinking, the first real slide in a generation, while the podium beneath it fills with Skechers, Crocs, and a resurrected Converse. 56 years ago, this chart opened with a boring giant on top. Bata, selling cheap, comfortable shoes to absolutely everyone. Half a century of hype. Superstars, bands, bankruptcies, and billion-dollar collabs later, the winners are, once again, cheap, comfortable shoes. In the sneaker war, cool comes and goes. Comfort never loses.